If you have a vision and you have a dream, the next step is to take action and make it happen. Hi, and welcome back to the Social Squirrel Show. I'm your host, Bex, the CEO of Savvy Squirrel Social. And today I'm really excited because I have a special guest with us. Her name is Susan from Imagine Properties, and she does real estate here in Florida and as well as New York and New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. She's also going to share a quote with us, and then we're going to get right into her interview.
Okay. The quote that I tell everybody, and I had it hanging on a poster in our office, is from Henry Ford. And he said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
I love that. I think I've heard of that quote before.
Yeah,
It's a pretty popular,
yeah.
A popular quote. Yeah. So Susan, tell us about you and Imagine Properties and kind of how you got started doing that and your business journey so far with it.
Okay. So I actually was involved in a family business that wasn't going very well. And in a fit of anger, I said, well, I'm leaving. I'm going to get my own job. So I went online and I got applied for a part-time position answering phones. It happened to be at the local cable company, which I didn't know at the time. So I go there, I get the job, and it's in the advertising department for the cable company, which I thought was pretty cool. Eventually, that led to full-time answering phones. Then I became the admin assistant. And then my boss, who forces everybody into sales, says, why don't you go into advertising? And I'm like, I can't go into advertising. And it was a commission job. There was a small salary, but I was nervous. And I was like, he goes, well, if you're going to look for another job anyway, just try it out. So I did. And it was basically, I was selling billboard, like digital billboard. That's what I started at. And then a couple of months in, he said, we're launching a real estate channel and I want you to run the real estate channel. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so cool. So I tried it. I got to know every local realtor. This is up in New York. Every local realtor. I did all of their advertising for them. I did all of the promotions. I was able to produce, like he told me if I could sell a spot on it, like an advertising spot on it, I could produce it. So I had every kind of real estate news show and bios for the realtors. I did everything. And it was a 24-hour station. And it was so good that they kept it on 3 channels because people like to watch it and people used it as background. And I did that for 13 years and everything was going great. The realtors loved me. And I was like, the more I hung out with them, the more I was like, I have to get my real estate license. This is what I want to do. So I kind of did both for 2 years. And then we got bought out by a Cablevision. We were a small company and we got bought out by a bigger company and they discontinued the real estate channel. So now I was like, okay, then I'm just going to do real estate. And this was around 2005, 2006. And then the market crashed. The 2008, the market crashed. Advertising completely dried up. And I was at home with 3 kids in like carriers. It was just crazy. And also my husband worked for Port Authority and it was right after the World Trade Center. So he wasn't even home. He was working crazy shifts and that went on for like 2 years. So that's how I got into real estate. I was always fascinated with it. Like the first time I ever played Monopoly, I was like, this is great. I want to do this. And that's how it started.
Okay, so you used to do just the radio station it was?
It was a cable station.
Oh, so on the TV?
Yes, on TV.
Oh, cool. So basically ads, essentially.
Yeah, but then there was content
ads.
too. We would do shows about New York City. We would do shows, what's happening in the area. The realtors realtors love to talk about it themselves. So they all did bios of themselves and it just snowballed. They would put their listings up and we would have a narrator read the listings. So figured this was back in the early 90s, like 92, 93, 94. So that there was no internet. There was no going on the internet and looking up houses. So this was like a key thing.
Gotcha. Okay. And I mean, right now, what are your thoughts about the real estate industry and the housing situation going on in different places, essentially, because you are from up north, but also
New
down
York,
here.
But also down here.
So how can you compare apples to apples, I guess?
It's so this is what I want to say about real estate, which a lot of people don't know. There's always headlines. Is the market good? Is it good for buyers? Is it good for sellers? Are the interest rates up? There's always something. But here's the thing that drives the real estate and why people move in the first place. It's marriage, it's having a baby, it's downsizing, it's the death of a spouse, it's your job is relocating. Those are all the reasons that people buy and sell. And if you're in one of those situations, and like, let's say you have a kid and you're in a 1 bedroom and then you have a second kid, you have to move. Like, it doesn't matter what the interest rates are. It doesn't matter what the market is. When you have to move, you have to move. Or if somebody's downsizing, like their kids are grown and now they're retiring, they can't afford the taxes or whatever. They have to move. So it's life that it's the cycle of life that actually drives the real estate market, which a lot of people don't really think about. They just think about whoever's talking what headline at that point. But if you think about all of those things, those are the reasons to move, to buy, to sell, whatever, relocate.
Mm-hmm. And what piece of advice would you give to, say, a young person looking to buy, or maybe a family looking to buy their first home? What should they be looking for in terms of maybe loan rates, locations?
Well, the first thing that everyone has to do, you have to have a pre-approval. So before that, you have to get your finances in order. You have to make sure your credit is good. You have no outstanding debts. You have no like repossessions. No, you don't want all of your debt to be used. Like, let's say you have 10 credit cards. If they're all maxed out, you're not getting a mortgage. If you have 3 or 4 credit cards and they have a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand on it and you make good money, that's good. So the first thing they have to do is get their finances in order and talk. They could talk to them. I'm a mortgage broker also in all 3 states. I did that like right around the COVID time. Because I really just wasn't happy. I've been in real estate for 20 years and I've been a broker owner of my own company for 11 years. And I just wasn't happy with the mortgage people, the way that they were treating my customers. A lot of times for them, it's like they just need to have 100 people in their funnel. And if it works out, it works out. And you're getting to the end of the transaction and you find out it's not going to close. So I figured if I got in the mortgage business, I could help my people directly myself. And I know from the beginning if it's going to close or not. And I know what would need to be done in order to make it close, or maybe they have to wait 6 months. So like that was one of the reasons I got into the mortgage business too, to help to make sure that there's no broken hearts at the end of the transaction, that they can't get the mortgage. And that was happening a lot, about like around just before the COVID time, that was happening a lot. So
now, if someone can't get a mortgage for a house, say, what happens? Is it like, well, if you can't get a mortgage, then you have to just put down the whole amount of the house, essentially? Like you would have to have that, however
well, yeah,
much
if you can't get a mortgage, you got to put down cash. But the odds are, if you can't get a mortgage, you don't have the cash. But so it just means they can't get a mortgage right now. If we have all kinds of ways to get people to improve their credit, save their money. There's, for first time buyers, there's down payment assistance programs. There's grants that they can get if they qualify. And not everybody will qualify, but there's a good number of people that do qualify. But basically, you should meet with either a realtor or mortgage broker. You can meet with me and we would go over everything and see what the plan is. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. But, you know, I've been working with people sometimes 2 and 3 years before they actually get their dream house. But it is a process, you know. Unless you're selling a house and you have a lot of equity in the house and you're putting a lot of money down on a new house, it is a process and everybody goes through it. And it can be overwhelming, but we're here to help. We're here to help every step of the way.
Now, I've been seeing a lot online, especially on social media and stuff, about an FHA loan.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What is the deal with this FHA loan?
It's a government-backed loan where you only have to put down 3.5% and they finance the rest. There's a couple of strings with that. There can't be anything wrong with the house. There can't be any chipped paint, which is hard. A chip in the window, anything that's like mold or radon, anything that's hazardous, you can't get an FHA mortgage then. And the problem with that is, in this market, which is kind of a seller's market still, if a seller has multiple offers and somebody's putting down 20% with no possible FHA issues, the FHA is not ever going to get accepted. So a lot of times the FHA will go way over the asking price. But the problem with that is it's not going to appraise, and then you're not going to get the mortgage anyway. And I know the like I'm saying it like this happens every day to me, but I know that people don't understand that. So if people have questions or they really, really don't understand the different programs, they can always call me and I'll go over it in detail because it is a little confusing and overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But there's lots of programs. There's the FHA, there's, a low down payment conventional. But just remember, the less you put down on the house and the more you have to finance, the higher your monthly payment is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a program for everybody. Some people benefit tremendously from FHA and other people benefit from conventional and putting more money down.
Now, if someone was looking to just purchase land and then build a custom house on there from ground up, is that kind of the same type of process?
So if you're just buying land and then hiring a builder to build on it, the land, you can't finance land. It has to always be cash. But there are plenty of builders that will sell you the house with the land and be in one price, and then you get a mortgage on the entire thing. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. But if you're just buying land, like say a lot of people will buy land now and maybe want to build on it when they retire or in 10 or 20 years, you have to buy the land for cash. You can't finance land.
Okay. And is that something that you go through like a real estate agent with as well?
Yes.
For buying lands?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what would you say is the biggest difference between the three markets that you operate in, between Florida, New York, New Jersey? I mean, in terms of prices, like insurance stuff, location.
So let's start with Florida. The biggest issue with Florida right now, as you know, is insurance. Like I'm on the East Coast and it was hard enough to get insurance. And then my insurance dropped me and I had to go with Citizens, which is like everybody can get Citizens. But now I started to get solicited from other companies, meaning like now it's a little bit better. The biggest draw for Florida for people outside of Florida is it's less expensive to purchase here. The taxes are lower, but the insurance is higher. In New York and New Jersey, the prices are higher. The taxes are probably quadruple what they are here. But you could get insurance, not a problem.
Mm-hmm. And which market do you like to sell in best?
I truly, truly, truly want to expand my Florida market. Right now, most of the sales that I've had in Florida are from my investors up north buying down here. So that's who I'm working with now. I hope to expand as much as possible. I prefer the East Coast, the West Coast. Honestly, with all of the storms and the prices and the insurance, I'm not comfortable selling people the West Coast. So if they ask me, like I tell them, you have to go to both places and choose which one you want. But I love the East Coast. Back when I was in my 20s, I lived in West Palm Beach right before it got all like built up and everything. And I've always loved it down here. And honestly, at my age, I'm done with the New York winters. I just don't even want to be there. When I don't mind the cold, I mind the snow and the ice.
So do you primarily stay down here for the whole winter?
Yes.
Okay, so you're like a snowbird. You go up back in the summer.
Although if I have a client down here, I'll fly down for a week and take them out and, get them all situated and then go back. If I have to go back and forth, it's really not a big deal. The flight is 2.5 hours if there's no delays. And, it depends on where the business is. That's where I'll go, wherever the business is.
What are some hot spots people are checking out to move to down here, buy properties in?
The two places that right now that I have buyers in are Stewart, Hope Sound, Jansen Beach, and Port St. Lucie. Those are popular because they're very affordable and they're very nice and they're near the beach. Palm Beach County is desirable. Everybody would want it, but it's gotten a little bit more expensive now.
Okay. Yeah. I was recently out in the Loxahatchee, Westlake area, and they're doing tons of building out there. I don't know if you've seen anything out
Florida,
there.
compared to us, like we would get maybe one lot of land in 2 or 3 years where I am. And here you could build hundreds of things. Like I'm trying to actually team up with builders. So this way, because I could finance the project, I could finance the house, I could attract their buyers for them. I could do everything all in house. So I do want to do that because you have a lot more opportunity here than I do in up north.
Mm-hmm. There's more room to spread out.
Yeah, there's definitely more.
The whole center of the state, there's nothing going on there.
And there's no land up there.
Yeah. Do you predict that eventually, like a lot of building is going to be happening more in the center state of Florida and everything. So, I mean, we're so crowded on the coast,
if
right?
they could get that bright line to go across, I think it'll be booming. Because then you're an hour by train to either beach. You're an hour from West Palm to Orlando. Then you're less than an hour to Miami. If they could get the train to go across, like to Sarasota, Naples, and then up to Tampa, I mean, railroad changed everything up north too. Railroad changed across the whole United States. So train would definitely help that.
What are some of your favorite things about working in the real estate industry?
I love meeting new people. I love helping people. I mean, it's not all HGTV where you open up a door and everything is beautiful. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't understand, and it gets overwhelming, and I'm happy to be there for people when they need me to be there because they don't know what it's like. It's not as simple. I mean, definitely I'm here to manage it because there's always ups and downs, but I know the markets, all of the 3 markets, I know them pretty well, and I know what they should bid on something. I do comps for people. For investors, I really like to work with investors. I give them the comps on when they're purchasing something, and then if they were to rent it out, I give them the comps, and it's a whole analysis so they can make the best decisions for themselves. But I've always enjoyed working with people.
Okay, so you would say that's your favorite part is just getting to meet so many different people. Have you worked with, I guess, people from all over the world looking to buy property here, or has it been mostly Americans?
Mostly Americans. There are a lot, like I would say the Miami market, and actually I just partnered with the Ritz-Carlton in Palm Beach Gardens. They let realtors come in and bring people, and that I thought that was going to be a big international market. And they said there have been some international, but not a lot. But I think Miami is totally international.
Yeah, there's a lot of international people down there. Also, some really crazy houses down there, really big ones. Have you ever sold any really expensive, like big
Not
houses?
Down here. I sold in New York for millions, but not down here yet. Not down in the millions, no.
Yeah, those are probably fun sales.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So another question I have for you is in terms of when someone's buying a house, right? I've seen signs where it's like buy owner. What does that mean? What's the difference between when it's buy owner versus like you have to go through a realtor? Do you have a choice? Like
yes, you never have to go through a realtor, but it's like, would you have surgery without a doctor? Not that I'm comparing myself to a doctor, but there are so many pitfalls with the real estate. Like, there are people that put houses on the market and you don't know, like it's not to code. The taxes are wrong. The information is wrong. They put an addition on and who knows if that electric is like I would know when I go to a house what needs to be checked out with the town before I sell it. There's just so many things. Like you could be buying a house and it's in foreclosure and they didn't tell you. Like when you're working with a realtor, everything has to be disclosed for both sides protection. It's not just one. And sellers, they don't know what they're getting into. Like they could be, oh, we're selling a family trust. Well, did that go through probate? Did it get approved? Are all the brothers and sisters and kids on board? Like there are so many things that go into it that if you're doing it alone without the guidance of and not just any realtor, a realtor that really knows what they're doing, it could be a lot of problems. You could get fined from your town if they find out something that you didn't do. The title won't clear. Title's another part of the real estate industry. It's an insurance policy that you get saying that, you're buying a house and somebody from 50 years ago that owned that house isn't going to come back and take it. Like there are houses that predate title that could happen to. So you just always want to be protected and you just always want disclosures. Everything has to be.
Yeah, my roommate was trying to buy a house recently and she had gotten an inspector to come in and he found like so many things under the sink that the people didn't disclose, like like a lot of issues, and she couldn't buy the house. So do you work directly with the inspectors to bring them in and make sure the house is good?
I always recommend an inspection. An inspector around in Florida will know all the things that have to be done for Florida. The same with New York. Like we have a radon issue up in New York. I know you guys don't have basements here, but up in New York we do, and that's an issue. Down here, they're going to tell you about like if there's a pool, they're going to tell you the AC is most important down here. The inspector, I highly recommend it. In fact, I'll make you sign a waiver if you decline an inspection. It's for your own good. It's not that expensive, and it's totally worth it. Because there are things like I don't know. I don't know how to build a house. I don't know what. They look and see how old the electric panel is. They see how old the hot water heater is, the AC unit. Like, you need to know all of these things, because then you're going to be budgeting to replace them.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Are you on social media? How do people get in touch with you?
Yes. My name is Susan Camus, Imagine Properties. My phone number is 845-398-1717. I have a website called imagineproperties1.com, and I'm on Facebook under Imagine Properties and Imagine Properties Florida. So I have two, one specifically for Florida. Those are all the places that they can text, call. I have an email, Susan. Actually, it's imagineproperties1.com. So
for your email, it's Susan at
imagineproperties.com.
Okay. And they can just shoot you an email.
Yeah. Text is probably the best. 845-398-1717. Texting is the best. That I check all day long and can get back to people right away.
Now, if someone's looking to come contact you, say they found like a house online, do they just bring you that listing? Like, hey, I found this listing. Can you help me with it?
They could just send me the address and I'll research the entire background of that house.
Okay. And then you also do research in terms of like, hey, I'm looking to buy a house. Can you find me some properties that fit my criteria?
Yes.
You do things like that.
I set them up on an auto search with all of their criteria. And every time something comes out that matches their criteria, they get an automatic email.
Okay. And if someone finds a property and they're like, I really like this, but they're looking to work with you as a realtor, if it's owned by, or if that property is already with another realtor company, how does that work? Do you like steal their property or something?
We don't steal their property. And actually, that's an issue that has just come up recently. If everybody's heard the NAR headlines, the way that it works is most agents, most reputable companies, they will offer a buyer's agent commission. So they take the listing. It's a contract between the seller and the listing agent. And then if a buyer brings somebody, we do compensate them. It's not like a set number. It's depending on the situation, but there's a reputable agent will offer compensation to the buyer's agent.
Okay.
And you could do dual agent too. If I have a listing and you want to come and see it and you call me and you like it, I could take care of both sides. It's called dual agency.
Oh, awesome. I didn't even know that existed. That's really cool. Well, we're just about out of time for today, but it was great having you on,
Thank
Susan. I'm so glad.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you ended up being in Florida. This was the perfect timing too, because we were going to do it on Zoom, I think. Yes. But yeah, no, I'm so glad you were here, and I'm so happy to have had you on. I honestly, real estate confuses me. So it was really great to get some insight from you. And I know people listening too are probably really happy about what you had to say, because it's confusing, I think, honestly, especially in today's age. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for listening. You can connect with Susan at Imagine Properties on Facebook. Or I'm going to put all her contact info in the show notes if you want to get in touch with her for anything related to real estate. We'll see you in the next episode.